there seems to be a phrase that every brand under the sun says, if we're seeing sales, we've got unlimited budget. Well, if I knew a roulette wheel was going to turn red every time, I'd have an unlimited budget. We don't know that. You know the score. Marketing departments around the globe are now dug deep into the trenches preparing for the busiest month of the year. On this week's episode, we've decided to do something a little bit different. We're peeling back the curtain behind our internal paid social playbook, which is a fantastic guide for anybody buying ads in the month of November and a great resource to share with your team. Welcome to eCommentary. So let's get into it. One of the first areas that I want to talk about is campaign structure during Black Friday and Cyber Week. There is a big urge to chuck all of this fantastic new creative into your always-on campaigns. However, this carries a couple of dangers because what you're actually doing is you're upsetting the balance of your always-on campaigns. So what I would really recommend to you is that instead of throwing this new creative into your always-on campaigns and turning off your evergreen content, is to launch campaigns specifically for the promotional period. If you're running Black Friday campaigns and Cyber Monday campaigns, they can go in the same campaign. They can benefit from the learnings from each other, but don't disrupt your always on campaign structure. And one interesting thing that we've seen over previous years is that the brands that continue to run always on content during Black Friday and Cyber Week actually see some good performance from this content. This is probably down to consumers getting fatigued with promotional and sales messaging. They are getting tired of seeing percentage signs and discounts, and they just want to see something that looks quite nice. And this is where that aesthetic always-on content can come in. The user will still go to your website. They will still shop around expecting some form of discount or sale. It's just a more aesthetically pleasing vehicle for them to get to your website. One other thing that I always love to talk about with campaign structure is that if you start to disrupt your always-on funnel with promotional campaigns, what happens is you may do really, really well in the short term, but as you start to approach January or mid-January, February, where you want to launch more of that always-on content, you make it far more difficult for the algorithm to find your target buyers within those campaigns. I'm a big advocate of keeping those separate. You are more than welcome to duplicate audiences into your promotional campaigns, slightly controversial, but if you follow the current trend of using open audiences and audiences in the millions, you're probably not spending enough to see significant overlap. If you are, then you have a decision to make. Do we turn down our evergreen campaign budget so that we can push more budget into our promotional campaigns? Are we seeing significant auction overlap? Is that affecting our CPM? If the answer is yes, then just reduce the budget on one campaign, but keep it running. You will be so much happier when it comes to the end of the promotional period that you've got something stable and working to fall back on. And we shouldn't overlook that the conversions happening in your evergreen campaign during this period help the algorithm to work so that we can actually see these campaigns performing even better when you stop with the sales messaging. Next up, I always like to talk about budgeting because there seems to be a phrase that every brand under the sun says, if we're seeing sales, we've got unlimited budget. Well, if I knew a roulette wheel was going to turn red every time, I'd have an unlimited budget. But the reality is we don't know that. So we need to know on a good day, what are our KPIs and what can we spend? Make sure that you have the processes in place within your organization so that your team are able to scale quickly. Who do we have to speak with? What amount of daily spend needs to be approved by CMO, CFO? And once you have that, then you're able to make quicker decisions. And in Black Friday and Cyber Week, decision making at speed is super, super important. We don't want to be waiting for a text message back from the CFO and they're in a meeting, because the time will pass. And it's also really, really good to be clear regarding timings of scale. Try to avoid scaling campaigns after 7 o'clock in the evening. What we see, especially with campaign budget optimized campaigns, is that if you increase your budget late in the day, the platforms are going to say, thank you so much, we're going to spend your budget. And what happens is you end up with quite a lot of junk impressions. And we always get asked, how do you scale your budgets during Black Friday and Cyber Week? And it's a great question, because there are a number of different thoughts and approaches that you can take. If you're hitting significant scale, so you're getting a lot of conversions through, sometimes you can use this increased demand to almost ignore the impact of the learning phase. If you're able to get 50 conversions through a campaign in a day, then the learning phase becomes irrelevant, because demand is going to help you to re-optimize those campaigns. So you can go as big as you like with scale. If you're not going to hit that level of scale, then what you may want to do is scale your budgets 20, 30%, and then you can bump it again. And this shouldn't impact the learning phase. Our favorite method of scaling during Black Friday and Cyber Week is actually to do something a little bit different. We need to get very, very clear on our daily budget. Once we know our daily budget, we'll always start our campaigns 30% higher than our daily budget. And you've got to be careful with this. Don't get me wrong. If you do that and you ignore your campaigns for the day, you're going to get into a lot of trouble. But if you're able to check your campaigns first thing in the morning, you're going to see what the traction is like. Where are you getting sales? Where are you not getting sales? So check first thing in the morning, then check around lunchtime, and make decisions at those points. It is far easier to chop down a budget than it is to scale a budget up on a daily basis. So start higher and cut, and make sure to cut at ad level. Reassign your spend, and you should come in somewhere near your daily budget. This is probably one of the best tips that we've had. If we see a good performance on the day and it's keeping going, then what we'll do is the next day we'll start even higher again. And what that's going to allow us to do is go through that very similar process. We're going to go check the account in the morning, turn off ads or ad sets that aren't working, and we're going to push more and more of our budget through things that are working. We are big advocates of campaign budget optimization, and that's one area we are really going to make the most of. So one other area that brands tend to ignore amongst the preparations for Black Friday, and I'm not going to be popular with your design department for this one. Try to get all of your creative and copy written and uploaded at the same time. If you're running multiple offers that are dripped through the week, still push to upload them all at the same time. We want our offers uploaded, we want them approved, we want them ready to run. But there's also a very, very good reason why we want to do it at the same time. And that is that it minimizes disruption to your ad campaigns. If you're constantly uploading new creative into your campaigns, what you're doing is you're disrupting the algorithm. You're giving it new information to think about, and it's stopping it from learning from what's worked before. If you're running urgency messaging, the same applies. If you're going to run last 48 hours, offer ends today, offer ends tomorrow, these messages, you may need to set minimum daily spends behind those, because what's going to happen if you upload those at the same time as the promotional ad that's been running for a while, the algorithm is going to go with what it thinks will work. And if it has more information from another piece of creative that has been working, it will keep going there. You've asked for sales, that's what it's delivering, so that you lose the benefit of your urgency messaging. If you set minimum spends and you set them quite high, again, you force the algorithm to spend through those ads, you get your urgency that you want to deliver, and then throughout a transitional period, you can then turn off the piece of creative that's been running a little bit longer. And that's a great strategy. Do push urgency while stocks last. All of this urgency, we need to create urgency with our consumers because they are spoilt for choice. They are shopping around. So we need to make sure that they complete that transaction right there so that we can get the sale rather than them looking elsewhere. And finally, I really want to end the episode looking into a couple of miscellaneous tips. And these are tips that don't necessarily fit into campaign structure, budgeting, learning phase, uploading ads. And this set are some of the best lessons that we've learned. And one of the lessons that I would start with is don't make any huge changes during Black Friday and Cyber Week. We saw it last year with a brand that decided to open up a new warehouse during Black Friday and Cyber Week, and it was stressful all round. So try not to change too many things. If you are going to launch sub-sites and if you are going to reskim the website for Black Friday and Cyber Week, make sure that you have a rollback available. Make sure that your developers are to hand. And if there are bugs that are impacting checkout, any issues with the platform, that you can roll back to the previous version and carry on trading. The other one that I would really talk about is product feed management. Now, I made a LinkedIn post earlier showing some of the perils of using creative overlays on your product feed. Make sure to check out my LinkedIn if you want to see a great example from Ted Baker of what you probably shouldn't do. But another area that you really need to be careful with is making sure that the products in your product feed are available and line up with your sales messaging. There's nothing more frustrating than seeing a product ad or a shopping ad that has a fantastic offer and that it has one size left, and it's usually either XXXS or XXXL that nobody's going to fit. Consumers are looking to buy, but time is of the essence. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of offers to go through. Try to make it as seamless a shopping process for your customers as you can. And the other thing that we really, really like to hammer home is getting clear on product margin. When you offer a discount, you know it. It affects your profit margin. That's where the discount comes from. Therefore, the KPIs, the CAC targets, the ROAS targets all change as you apply discounts. The bigger the discount, the higher the ROAS needs to be. It's really, really time well spent to speak with your accountant or your CFO about what does profitable look like for our brand during this sales period. What is our KPIs? And then communicate them with your team. If your team still believe that a 3 ROAS with a 60% discount is as profitable as a full price product and a 3 ROAS, you are in for a major, major cash burn. So communicate all round. What does profitable look like? What are we trying to get out of these campaigns? And get on the same page so that everybody can do their job as best as possible. Finally, one other thing that I've talked a lot with our team about is expectations around Black Friday and Cyber Week. There's a lot of excitement about how much volume can be achieved during this period. But what we have to remember is this year is significantly different to previous years. This year, we have a cost of living crisis. We have rising energy prices, and we also have the World Cup. Consumer sentiment has been affected enormously leading up to Black Friday this year. So don't expect your consumers to act in the same way that they did last year. You need to plan for them acting slightly different. You need to plan for possibly lower sales. Get very, very clear on your objectives behind the month and make sure that in January and February, when you check back on the P&L, everybody's smiling. And that's it. You are now ready to tackle Black Friday. Go out there, make some money, enjoy the process, learn as much as you can from the platforms. And remember, the strategies that you go into Black Friday with are adaptable as long as you have the content in place. Have your backup plans in your pocket, have your backup offers in your pocket. Go out there and make the most of it. Thank you for listening.